We have come a long way from where it all began. I have captured the Zagros Mountains, giving us a perfect place to launch an invasion into the Persian heartland. Even better is the fact that I've captured the only man to ever outsmart me, Mithridates of Pontus. But the best of all is my long-lost title, which I finally possess again. I am at last the true heir of Alexander. It feels good. It tastes like victory to me. Yet I still need to deal with my nemesis. Advisor Sumari came up with an intriguing approach. We shall put poison in his food, make his death unexpected, and ensure the world won't figure out I did it. But as we continued with our plan, nothing happened. He must be blessed by Apollo, just like I am with Zeus. Is that the reasoning behind the godly visits from the Lord of Olympus himself? I cannot risk going against the will of the gods and fear a curse. Let me be merciful, just like Alexander was with King Darius's family. He shall live as a servant on a farm far away from public life, shoving goat shit for the rest of his life. As my quarrels were with Mithridates alone, I sued for peace with the Parthians. For strategic purposes, of course. Supplies were limited and our numbers of men even more so. Continuing the assault was practically impossible. Hence I ordered my men to spread out all over our kingdom to replenish, leaving just one unscathed army in the east. In the meantime, I would focus on internal affairs, making sure our economy could sustain the size of our mighty armies and the vast amount of territory we command. A few more things happened in the west, nothing too major, just the Getaeans invading and Massalia taking control over most of northern Italy. Well, it didn't just happen in our short time of peace, but over a much larger period of time. But that is not as important for what is about to happen. The Bactrians started to push hard on Saba, our ally. Gaul had fallen into their hands with Charax soon to follow, unless we did something to distract the Easterners fast. To make matters worse, the Parthians have become rather bold, with one of their armies moving through our lands and almost into Mesopotamia. Enough was enough. I marched the Pergamene royal guard down to intercept the Parthian battalion. As the Parthians had learned from their past mistakes, they brought way more infantry than just cavalry. So I chose to swap the Wedge tactic for an oblique order and horns of the Buffalo hybrid. It is rather simple, to be fair, but sometimes simple is the best approach. I used my Thracian cavalry to lure the enemy close, like I've done in the past. Once in range, my skirmishers could deal with their cavalry. My pikes would then slowly approach to pin down the enemy. Once that was done, my mounted units had an easy time attacking the enemy from behind. With that decisive victory, the final war had broken out. I didn't even bother hunting down the last few units. I knew they would surrender once I put enough pressure on their cities, which my armies are in great position to do. The first town to fall was Raga, an iron outpost which has seen a lot of war during the last few months. We are just the latest of many regimes to rule their lands. They won't care for us like the ones before that. But then Bactria joined the war as well to add up for this easy occupation. I will talk a lot more about them in the future. Same with the Cartli, who refused to support us and declared their independence. For now, we need to focus on the Persians, as one of the lesser kings made a counterattack on Raga, with surprisingly little effect. With their forces weakened, I had a chance to raid their walled city with ease. This should have been the end of them, yet I was so impressed by their courage to fight me, I left them as a client state. Something which was about to bite me in the ass. But I wanted to reach the edge of the world, so we seized Sadrakata for us to use it as a slingshot into their most valuable settlements. Here we split up our forces to cover more ground, one army pushing to Nisa, with another towards Susa. I would stay behind, ready to reinforce where we would experience the most resistance. But with that move alone, the most influential Parthian king yielded to our rule, adding all of his holdings to the Pergamene kingdom. All that remained was Bactria and 3 minor Persian kings, where we are actually about to cross blades with one of them. The tiny kingdom of Haraiva tried to block our path towards their silver mines. But by the sight of my host of 10,000 strong fighters, they scattered in the wind, luring us further into their lands where they revealed the most consequential threat of them all. Their scorched earth tactic, making it impossible to supply our armies. But before we keep going on that, let me explain what happened in the west while I was away. Most of my forces were either with me in the east or to the south, keeping the Bactrians at bay. This of course meant the Count Lee, who ruled the Armenian lands unopposed, could declare war on us. Same for Komis, the courageous Persian king, whom we subjugated. And of course, he wasted no time as both Raga and Sadrakata fell in record time. To our luck, one of my armies had just left the iron mines to assist in the war against Bactria. Now they turned around to finish this treacherous king, like I should have done when I had the chance. With swift speed, he pushed into Hecatompylus, securing their high walls. He had a few more fights with them, but they never became more than just a nuisance to us. For the Kartli, it was even simpler. I had already recalled my army in Egypt, which searched for Mithridates. But as that no longer was needed, I brought them over to the front lines. They, along with another force, occupied Dura and Hatra in just 2 months. Later they would punish the Kartli by taking Tushpa and Asamosata away from them, and then sue for peace with a monetary benefit. And now that we are over here, I might as well explain to you what the Bactrians did at Gaul. Their incredible numbers destroyed the Saba forces in the region and pursued them into the desert. This was their biggest possible mistake, as one of my armies could just disrupt their supply lines by capturing Tharax. Let them starve in the hot sun, let them fall for the same reason I didn't want to fight the Arabians and allied with them. Standing alone with minimal support, Gaul valiantly battled my men, but to no success. It would eventually be double-teamed by 2 of my armies and fall into our hands. That should wrap up everything in the west. Now allow me to finish my expedition in the east. We were in desperate need of supplies to keep our advance going. I expected them to have whatever they possessed in Marv, and that was false. They were guarded by their armies, which by now had spread themselves all over the countryside. I was the only one lucky enough to catch one, ensuring the good health and well-being of my loyal soldiers. But as I tried to return north to deal with Haraiva, I came into contact with the only Bactrian army defending their lands. They blocked my path, making it impossible to deal with our raiding enemies. So we assassinated their general. You should see that as a justified act, not like the deed of Hades like the Bactrians did. Even though we had a river between us, they still fired the first volley of arrows. This is my opportunity to deal with them once and for all. As they were moving rather fast, I quickly rushed whatever infantry I had ready over to the shallows. Further down the river, my cavalry crossed too, and after making sure there was no possible escape route, they charged. The battle was fierce, with the river slowly turning red with blood. With water to their hips and heavy armor weighing them down, blocking our long pikes was practically impossible. By the sight of our cavalry, they routed. The thing is, it just made my job a whole lot easier. Bactria was now undefended. All of the armies had been destroyed. My men and I just needed to seize their settlements. Attalus took the main part of our forces and went into the nearest town with the food supply, that being Amul. He had to fight quite hard for it, but overcame their foes as always. By then we spent an entire month hunting down stragglers, hurting our food production in the province. My men suffered the most from this as we ran out of rations once again. But after a quick visit into Parthian lands, all wagons were filled and ready to finish our long expedition. Feeling the war had prolonged long enough, each town surrendered one by one, offering gifts in attempt to redeem their overlords. Knowing they had nothing to do with the deeds of their leaders, we spared their lives. If I could spare the life of Mithridates, the one to wound my pride forever, then cities of innocent peasants wasn't a problem. I personally marched around in the south claiming the allegiance of Capicene, just to meet up with the rest of my forces in Eucratidea. We had finally done it. I cannot believe how far I've come. From an 18-year-old boy, not knowing where I was from, to be the king of Pergamon, ruler of the Macedonian Empire, spanning from the eastern edges to Magna Graecia. From my birthplace in Sinope to the pyramids of Memphis. I am now 30. 30! I've had to spend 12 years reclaiming the territory it took my grandfather just 8. I will never surpass him, but I sure hope I made him proud. Same with Zeus. I completed most of his tasks, almost all of his mentioned tactics came into my possession. I wonder which ones I missed. Same with Athena Parthenon. The minions of Hades stole her from Athens long ago. Who knows how famous I'll become by returning that to Athens. Athena will surely bless me with knowledge beyond measure. the spawn of Hades, also known as Romans, have regained most of their power in northern Africa. Maybe I will send Attalus out on an expedition to find the statue.